when your child isn't meeting their milestones, like your child isn't talking like their peers, having behavioral challenges, not following instructions, or having learning difficulties. Or maybe you are currently navigating a diagnosis such as autism, speech delay, developmental delay, or even a learning disorder. You're trying to make sense of why your child struggles to attain skills that come so easily to others. Or do you find out that your child has been in therapy for several years, yet with little progress? This has left you with more questions than answers. At Autism Renewed, we see you and we are here to help. Hello, I'm Dr. Lola Okeowo, a medical professional and a global autism expert. I am the founder of Autism Renewed, an organization that works with parents and families all across the globe, equipping them to navigate developmental challenges. Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2. Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the Autism Renewed Conference 2026. What's going on? Can we see me? Okay, can you see me? All right. Sorry, a bit of technical hitch there. Hello, everyone. How are you going? Welcome to day 2 of the Autism Renewed Conference 2026. How are we all doing? I can see us already in the comment section. Thank you for joining us today. If you're joining us, let's know where you're joining us from, and let us know if you were here yesterday. Let's know your aha moment or learning points from yesterday. If you're here yesterday, can you indicate in the comment section and let me know where you're joining me from and your aha moments from yesterday? I've gotten quite a number of feedback, personally from people who were here live. Some people have watched the replay who couldn't join live. Some people watched the replay. So thank you. So we're going to start day 2, and today's going to be a bit interesting. And usually every year when we have the Autism Renewed Conference, we always dedicate one day where we call it Stories of Hope, where we bring a parent who has been on a journey to supporting their child in navigating developmental challenges and helping them to thrive. Of course, it doesn't mean that they're still not on a journey. As we all know, even when it comes to parenting or life in general, we all have our different journeys and different phases. I would always tell people that what the challenges that we all face as parents, as individuals, can be different. They can come in different packages. However, at every point in time, you always have something that you have that can be a blessing to another person. And sometimes someone else will be where you used to be. And you being able to share your own journey helps to give them hope, helps to show possibility. It doesn't mean that everyone will have the exact same outcome or in the same way or at the same time. However, seeing somebody who has been able to navigate and have certain outcomes or results gives you hope, shows you possibility, shows you like a picture, something to also behold and hope for. Because hope is not just vague. Even when you're believing God for something, and that's why even as Christians, you look into the scripture gives you possibility. Then when you see real life examples, it's like a picture that you can behold, you can hold on to, and can be a reminder that you can also have positive outcomes, even though it might not be the exact same thing. So we dedicate one day, and that's the second day, to sharing the story. So the person I'm bringing up today I've been privileged to know her for a while. We've been doing life together for a couple of years, and I've been privileged to work with her and her child. And sometimes even when I think about it, and I always remember, I'm always like, I can remember the day that I had a consultation with. I can remember it like yesterday. I can still remember where I was. I can still remember, and every time I hear wonderful, amazing stories about her child, and it's so heartwarming. And I'm grateful that, in the midst of the overwhelm, she still, found strength to take that step of faith. And I remember that day when I was talking to her, it's like, I'm just like, she didn't believe it. But somehow, she was able to still take those steps. And the goal is that I say something, I believe in putting the power in the hand of the parents, because I believe that an informed and empowered parent becomes a parenting advantage. I say it all the time. Any therapy or intervention that does not carry the parent along is not an effective therapy, because at the end of the day, the parent is at the core. Parent makes most of the decision. Remember, I said yesterday, when I say parents, I mean caregivers. We mean caregivers, but most times the parents are the caregivers. But in few cases, the parents are not the caregivers due to different reasons. So when we're saying parents, we're saying primary caregivers, the person that is with the child most of the time and making the core decisions for the child. So I just want to I'll add my slide before I bring her up. Um slide is even before I bring her up, yes, so day two. So the conference, of course, day two is about stepping up, really. Stepping up. Who was here yesterday? Yesterday was, we looked at renaming or having a different perspective when it comes to the concept of having a diagnosis or a label. So that's what we talked about yesterday. And yeah, for those of you that don't know me, a little bit about me. Don't worry, we'll talk about me more tomorrow. So yesterday we talked about having a different lens when it comes to diagnosis, and the fact that diagnosis is not a label, is not a ceiling, it's a starting point. It's a point that gives you direction. Okay, we learn to see clearly, to have clarity, and when we even talk about what do you call it, awareness. I always say that awareness is not just becoming aware, like information or having a sense or a knowing that something exists. No, awareness means that yes, a knowing, but a knowing that now has to do with knowledge and empowerment. Because if you are just aware of something without enough knowledge and actionable steps, then the awareness is nothing. You just become static with the awareness. Okay. But being able to move from just being aware of something or just encouragement into empowerment. It's not enough to encourage someone. So today is not to just encourage you with her story. No, it's not just encouragement, because I just encourage you, okay, it is well, you're just there. No, empowerment. So empowerment will now be, after the encouragement, the knowledge, the direction, and the steps. So today we're going to move on to stepping up. All right. Yesterday we changed our thinking. Today we're moving on to doing. We talked about diagnosis being a tool. We talked about the importance of looking at the whole child approach, looking at the gaps that are missing, the root causes. And when you hear a story today, you will see some of the things that I shared. Those are the things. She took away the diagnosis or the label, being able to look at the child as a person. What is going on with this child? How can I support this child? Where are the gaps? And in filling the skill gaps, that was when you started seeing transformation. And now wondering, how is this leading to this? Because sometimes the manifestation or the diagnosis is as a result of a deficit or a gap. So when we build those skills, we close those gaps. Or sometimes in some cases, like I said, you build a bridge. For example, someone having eye challenge. You may not be able to cure the eye challenge per se, but by the time you put on glasses, the glasses or spectacles or contact, whatever, becomes a bridge for them to be functional. So in building skills for the child as well, sometimes that's what you're trying to do. You build a bridge using those skills. So those skills give the child the enablement, the ability. Then you begin to see less of the gaps. All right. Of course, learn how to be the change agent. And today we're going to talk about the most important change agent, which is you, the parent or the caregiver. Then I'm going to bring on my guests to come and share her story. And we're going to talk about later on how to, the importance of stepping up into your power. So remember, as a parents, you are the pilots. I mentioned that every decision you make it, okay? So when you're a passive parent, um, I mean, I feel that the child, will really be the one that will be at the receiving end. So as a parent, even if you are overwhelmed, I say that if you don't know what to do, you must know where to go. So that's the importance of knowing how to partner effectively with the right professional. So if a doctor says, oh, your child has autism or developmental delay or speech delay, next, okay, what do you do? Begin to take that diagnosis, take those feedback as a starting point and direction. And I mentioned yesterday, those of us that are people of faith, are believing God, you are praying. Prayer and faith must have a target. So diagnosis is not the enemy of your faith. You having a diagnosis, being able to name. If you can't name it, you can't name it. It gives it a name. It gives your faith direction. It gives prayer direction. I shared the story of a blind Bartimaeus in the Bible. He was shouting, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me, have mercy. And Jesus said, what do you want me to do for you? So if you are believing God for something, God said, okay, what exactly do you want me to address? You need to know. You need to name it. You need to know what you are believing God for. And even in accessing resources or God even sending people to you, you need to have a direction. All right. So yeah, so I don't want to go into all this. So becoming an informed parent means you are empowered. So I just want to quickly bring my guest. I want to bring her on to share her story. So of course she'll share more about her story, but as a summary, she's a parent that's been on a journey helping her child to navigate things like being pre-verbal or limited language, hyperactivity, challenges with reading, following instruction, being all over the place, overwhelm everything, needing support in school, no progress, all those things too. A different story today, and she'll be sharing us on that journey, and our amazing our amazing champion. And trust me, it has not been a walk in the park. Oh, it's not. Some people will reach out to me say my child is starting school in September. How can they do that? Just in 3 months. It has taken years, and she's still on a journey. So join me to welcome my guest today, Mrs. Tokwe Fortune. We call her Tokwe Top Star. She's an amazing teens coach. She works with teenagers. She's also a public health professional. You know, all the people that help you to prevent, all the prevention experts and all your statistics experts. They are the ones. And she's an amazing teens coach. So she works with teens. She also speaks, if you have to your teenagers or you have programs where you want to work with your teenagers or yourself as a family, that's what she does. So welcome, Top Star. Thank you so much for doing this with us. And it's
Thank
so
you for having me.
amazing to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay. I mean, this is such a privilege that I don't take for granted. And I'm delighted to share my story as well.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, um, the truth is that we don't really have like a particular formal. There's no formality. This is life. It is story. It's a journey. So, I'll be asking her a few questions. I just felt that to give it a bit of direction, to give a bit of context, and because having worked with parents, I have an idea of so many things about her journey and about her story that so many parents will be able to relate with. So we're going to leave a lot of things that will not be relevant. But the most important thing is not just to share a story, like I said, not just to share testimony per se or encouragement, but a journey where you'll be able to relate to it, you'll be able to speak learning points. Because usually you can't, it's not about duplicating outcomes, it's about following process. And that process you can customize to your own. So that's the essence of this. But of course, we're going to start from the beginning. And that is that just take us back to the beginning when you first noticed maybe there was a challenge with your son, and what was that like for you as a parent now?
Okay, so when I first had my child, we didn't know much about being intentional about anything. And because it was the first, it was just more like we're just observing. And then I noticed that my son couldn't speak. um he couldn't even achieve that milestone of speaking when it was it was obvious that children of more than 18 months could have started saying, mommy, daddy, all those little syllables. So I was a bit worried, but my husband would say, okay, let's just give it time. Children have different milestone and the likes of it. So we gave time and we're still observing. But one thing stood out. Even when he was playing, he was always very hyperactive. There's this excess energy, excess hyperactivity that comes, well, with the aura around my child. And I began to feel very uncomfortable about it. And in fact, by the time he started school, that was 2 years plus, he started reception. He will be, he was just kind of different. And then I told my husband, I said, no, we need to do something. This boy is not responding. I mean, there are some obvious developmental milestones that he hasn't achieved, and we need to do something very fast. And in our climate, people will always like, you want to start labeling the child what he's not, or that kind of a thing. But I'm a reader. I read a lot and I've seen a lot of symptoms, but I couldn't just place what it was, whether it is autism or ADHD. I couldn't, but I just knew something was off. So by the time it was COVID era, it was close to, 4 years. It was 4 years plus. He still couldn't speak. I mean, my son wouldn't say anything more than mommy and daddy, and maybe one or more syllable. He couldn't even say nothing more than two syllables. Then I knew, and then he was showing a lot of learning disabilities. So that was when we now contacted you. I told my husband, I said, look, I know I have a friend who is also a medical doctor, but I think she can help us with this. And then, when I contacted you, you said, oh, no, we need a proper diagnosis. And then we need to be sure what we are, not just, we need to look beyond the speech delay and the other symptoms that we are seeing. We need to have a proper diagnosis. And then by the time we went for to see a consultant, he was diagnosed with ADHD, the inattentive type. And when we came back to you, you started giving us the tools, what we need to do, how we need to strategize better, how we need to create systems. And funny thing, because prior to this, we were all already stimulating his brain with so much screen. Normally in Nigeria, now once you've beaten the child, if he's not going to school, just go and keep the child on the screen. So that was one of the things we had to cut off. And it was from there we had to restructure the home. We had to re-strategize. I mean, we had to take out a lot of stimulating toys. We had to start intentionally building the skills. It's not been easy. It has not been easy. You know, when Coach Wendy will always say, accept the child that you parent the child that you have, not the one that you desire to have. So I began to look at this child from the end game, like who is this child going to be when he's 25 years old? Do I see somebody who is still struggling with a learning disability or with ADHD, or I see a wholesome child who is not only intentionally brought up, but has the necessary skill to thrive, to dominate, and to become even much more than, to walk into that mandate that God has destined for him. So I began to look at that picture and I started from there. We started using that blueprint to curate the kind of life that he is currently living right now, with strategies, with structure, with system. We had to put a lot of system in place. There's so much that has gone into it to become
I
the
want
boy
you to,
today.
there's something I want to ask, so that some people will understand that it's not been a, like I said, it's not been a working, it's not a question of 1 year, 2 years. Oh.
It's
Well,
not.
how long, I mean, I'm sure we're talking, since we first started, I'm not even like about 5 years.
6 years,
Yeah,
Seb.
6 years. Yeah, way before I had my son. Yeah, I'm talking 6 years. So when parents want to say, "Yes, my child is starting school in September," they're looking for one magic. I say it's not like that. It's a journey, but you must set your face like a flint and
It
start working. But I want you to walk through people so that they will not think that maybe like what you were saying that parent the child you have. I was talking about grief yesterday, and I was saying that there's a difference between grieving and mourning. You mourn someone who is passed away, but you can actually even grieve someone that is alive. What I'm saying
hmm,
that is that when your child has a challenge, it's as if you've had some dreams in your mind who you have thought, how we always dream. Maybe I've dreamt of his when his first day in school, how he's going to be saying mama, how you're going to video all those things, and all those things are not coming to pass. There is a grief, that's a loss. So loss doesn't mean death alone. Loss means that you have lost something that you have desired or envisaged, or something you had. A child that was speaking before and the child suddenly stops speaking, or a child loses a body part, loses their vision and everything. That child has become somebody else. Like what you were saying, the child you thought you wanted to have and the child you have is not the same. So you can actually be grieving the loss of the child you thought you were going to have. So that's where the parents struggle with that acceptance. Or you are grieving the loss of who you had, or the dream or the hope. But until you need to switch and not stay in that euphoria. Just the same way someone can grieve the loss of a marriage. You can grieve the loss of a marriage, loss of even yourself. Sometimes you're wishing that at this my age, I should have been this, I should have been in this place. And you are not there. It's like you're someone else. You can be grieving, you can have that grief of loss of who I thought I would be or who I was. Maybe someone loses a job and their standard of living has to drop. So I'm saying that because and I told them that it's normal to have that grieving. Then you now have to come to the point of awareness. You now come to the point of acceptance. Acceptance is not just I'm accepting, okay, it's just going to be like that. I'm accepting the child that I have. I'm accepting that there's a challenge. However, that acceptance is a starting point.
yes.
You accepted to do the assessment, to now have the diagnosis, to now have at the starting point. In fact, I'm sure that maybe a practitioner said ADHD. Maybe when you went to school again, they said autism. So when parents come here, I remember I told you that forget all those diagnoses because it can be very distracting. In fact, I know parents who the child would not even fit into a diagnosis because the diagnosis criteria is like a maybe questionnaire based or point based. So the child might be neither here nor there, but the child has a challenge. That's the focus. So whether there is a diagnosis, the child has a challenge. Drill down to the challenges and begin. So I want you to talk about maybe a bit about, so that people understand that grief, that feeling overwhelmed, that feeling, that fear, uncertainty, what will happen, this and that. And I think you also had other children at that time. You had other things. Just a little bit about those emotions that went on, but how you were not able to now transition from that. Okay, I'm down. They're moving, and even on the journey, it has not always been smooth. There are
Yeah.
tough days, long days, so that people can relate and don't think that okay, the fact that you have somebody working with you or you have a professional, that means that every day is a walk in the park. No, so that they can be able to relate. Just a little bit on that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I said that I had to come to that point of acceptance, right? When we came to accepting the child that we had, we knew that a lot of sacrifices has to be made to ensure that this boy is well supported, right? Because of course it showed that his brain is taking in information differently from how normal children or how do we call them, normal neuro typical,
Typical.
yeah, neurotypicals will accept and will take in information. So what we needed to do is first of all work on our own mindsets, because parenting starts from you yourself, the kind of mindset you have towards that child and towards the situation. So I, for once, I had to, like, okay, let go of it's okay, it's normal to feel, oh, this is a situation now, what do I do? It's normal. But however, it is what is much more important is for us to be able to step up to step up to the situation and say, oh, what can I do to make this better? Right. That was the position I had to come into, working on my mindset and seeing myself as a nurturer, as somebody who is a destiny changer, as somebody who is a destiny, shepherd, somebody who is going to shape that destiny that God has given into my hands. Right? God has placed the destiny of this child into my hand. What can I do to ensure that this child comes from where he is into that purpose, into that journey that God wants him to be? And what we did was to recreate our routines. We had to create routine. We have working routines that help us to help us with time management, everything. And what works with people with challenges like this is when you set routines that helps them to define what to do at certain times. So our structure had to be clearer and had to be defined. And another thing that I needed to do, I mentioned that we overstimulated him with a lot of screen. So we had to reduce it, completely reduce it to the barest minimum. In fact, we had to eliminate it at some point. It was when we now saw that, oh, he was off the grid for some of the symptoms. So we had to start introducing bit by bit, only for educational purposes and the like of it. And what I also did was I went to his school. In fact, at first it was in a particular school. I
I
withdrew him
remember
from
you
that
changed. I remember after that thing, we had a conversation. I think you
school.
had
Yes, yes.
two schools, and the interesting thing was that the school that you thought was the
Of
had
course.
the better one. I said no, this and this one is better. You were like, no, but that one is, the
Yes.
so-called better
The
standard of
thing was,
education, not the
the first
aesthetics.
school he was in was more expensive. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Was more expensive. We had to withdraw him from that school because, of course, the school settings and the structure was not going to help this child. So we had to put him into another school, and that had a better IEP plan, and we're able to talk with the director and the teachers that helped us to curate something for him.
Yes.
So that school support was in it for us, and
Yes.
we had a lot of patience. We had to build our patience with communicating with him because he had a lot of time processing information. So
Yeah. Yes.
we had to be very
His
patient and
processing
be
speed
patient.
was slow,
Yes,
and
yes.
he used to
So
get very upset if you're not patient with him. Then the
of
behavior
course.
is flares up, and yeah.
Yes, yes. So it was a lot. It was a lot. In fact, at some point, my husband was like, "Oh, what can we put ourselves into?" Oh, I mean, I had to like, okay, no, we are in this already. We have to just keep grinding. And today, this story, I mean, you can't. If I don't tell you that this child has a developmental delay or any milestone challenge, you won't know. You will find it
Yeah,
hard
people
to
that meet
believe.
him are always like, nah, it's not true. What do you mean, this boy? Nah,
I mean,
even at the point, the school said that he doesn't need any support again.
I mean, just 3 years into the system, that was 2 or 3 years ago. Yes, the school said no. This boy doesn't need any IEP support anymore. We are glad to push him back into the mainstream, right? And I was like, wow. In fact, I remember when he went to uh, Boys Leadership Academy camp last year, and I'm always upfront with the instructor and like, oh, this boy has social challenge in case, you know. Bucha Buka said, no, this boy that I'm seeing, this boy that I'm seeing, no, how can you say that, Mama? I said, well, it's true. I said, Coach Ruth said, like, he doesn't even see me. It doesn't look like this. Then I knew that,
Yeah.
oh, the effort of the work that we put in is actually yielding a lot of fruits, right? So that's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And honestly, if you see him, you wouldn't even. I mean, like you would not even believe it. And I like what she said of getting to the point of accepting the child, making the child the focus, and building your life around the child. A parent yesterday was asking in the comment section about the school of their child. I think she said the child is 5. They put on screen. They do this. That. What do I think is bad? I said I don't think it's a good thing. Yes, they may not even know, but I was like, you don't even do you even know what you need to look out for before you pick a school? Because I can remember with Mrs. Tokwe when she came and she analyzed both schools to me. I think it was in the other one, and so the matrix she was using to measure, I said no. But by the time she got to one, I said an informed and empowered brain. When you get in the right knowledge, then you're able to have the right lens. So, but at that point, what she was looking at that was going to be beneficial was actually not what the child needs. So most time parents don't even know what the child needs. You're focusing on the wrong thing. Like a parent, I still had a conversation last week saying, child is saying numbers. I said, that for me, when it comes to academics, 6-year-old, even yesterday, so a parent was saying, my 6-year-old writing 1 to 3, know the numbers. It's not a measure of intelligence. There's some other things you need to focus on. I remember she was telling me that her son, I used to like to play football, very playful. I said, that's not a problem. It's not a problem. I don't know that some children are very docile. They just sit there in one corner. They're not talking. That a child is very hyper, is expressing himself, is showing behavior. It's a good sign. We just now need to shape in the right direction. I say children that are in their shell, that is another kettle of fish that you now need to begin to bring out. That one is more difficult. But the one that is looks like it's all over the place, we just now need, it's a good time. We now need to train. Even that play is what we're going to use as a tool to help him. And now this is a boy that he has a lot of abilities. He has a lot of creative things. I know she was saying it that she was the time she was telling us that he creates a lot of all this. I don't know. He has all these put wires together and, and all those things. Meanwhile, in his hyperactive days, because his mind, and I've seen children like that a lot, their minds are very busy. So sometimes what you're seeing as restlessness is there are a lot of things are going on in their mind. So you as a parent now have to have the skill to redirect that focus, to channel it in the right direction, to give expression to it. Until they were able to do that, now that he's now calm, can put his thoughts together to create those things, he won't be able to create. But that ability has always been there. That ability was what we were seeing as all over the place. Restlessness. When you say one thing, he has forgot, he has dropped it. That is what you were saying, because his mind is just going boom, 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 boom. It's very all over the place. A lot of things are going on in his head, but nobody has been able to help him to channel it. Rather, you're trying to say, come and say ABC, come and say cat, come and sit down here. But now that you understand that he's like all over the place, you need to engage things that engage his mind. That is how you channel it. Maybe you can tell us more a bit about that.
So, like she said, his mind was always, in fact, it's as if his mind, head, every part of his body are working at the same time. So what I needed to do is to help him concentrate, learn the act and skill of concentrating. Because, at that point, in fact, at age 6, 7, his attention span was so minimal, nothing more than 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, at age 8, he's off. So, and he needs to build more focus and attention span, right? So what we now did was help him. What I did was I had to buy a lot of painting, drawing materials, colorings, paint by numbers. We buy them a lot, and then these activities help to, build his focus, because they require him to stay focused, pay attention to details to do that activity. And then you will not see him fiddling with wires, trying to do one or two things, even if he's trying to create or to recreate some certain things in the house. You see that he's paying more attention, just to get that activity done. So over time, what we did was, look for more activities that allow him to engage with playfully, so that he doesn't, feel. From there, he started building his life attention span into 30 minutes. Today, he can stay and read up to 2 hours on a stretch without getting bored. His attention span has now grown to a level that even I, as his parents, if I'm looking at where we are coming from and where we are now, like, wow, how did he do this? So it's you coming to that realization that, look, this is where I am, this is where we all are at this situation, and this is where we are going to. And then you begin to put in the necessary steps, begin to bring in the necessary tools that will help you and the child to navigate and also, improve better at each given time. So every year, what I do is I look at this child and where he is right now, and I'm like, oh, this is where we are now. How can we up our game? What can we do to be better? You understand? So I begin to look at, oh, he needs to pay more attention. He needs to get. We need to work on his execution level. We need to, he needs to be more organized. We need to build more executive functioning skills, and we focus on memory recall. We focus on at most just three skills for that year, and then we begin to bring in activities and skills and tools that will help us to build that skills for that time. Even if we don't even achieve it, no problem. We still carry it over. It's a journey. It's not a destination, right? So that has
Yeah.
actually helped with our journey.
Thank you. It's like most of the things that I see you were here yesterday. Well, but anyway, you have become an expert. You have been on this journey for a long time. What you're talking about skills, I was talking about that yesterday as well. And if you listen to what she said, she didn't first of all focus on, oh, is the counting 1 to 3? No, skills. Because some parents they wonder that. I had a parent reach out to me one that she was complaining in the UK that her child in school, they're not allowing the child to do numbers. They are focusing on activity, skill, cooking, and then, I said, Madam, that's even the good thing because you use the skill to build those things. So parents, some people that's sitting down to be doing one to even your 6 year old, your 5 year old chanting cat. I was telling the parents, I said, do you use cat? Say cat, say dog. Do you use cat and dog to interact? And if you listen to what she said, one of the things that I taught her over time is to use everyday interactions at home to
Yes.
engage the child. That's how you build language. That's how you build skill. Not sit down and say, yeah, say cat, say dog. The dog sat on the rat. Do you use the dog sat on the rat to communicate? And that's where there's always a gap most times. And that's why no matter the therapy the child does in school or in the therapy center, the home, the parents, you are with the child so many times in the day. Those are opportunities of interaction and practice. So I told her that you have to be patient with him. Be patient with him, then use so let him. I told her one thing then that they were trying to prevent him from that board. They said he should go downstairs and play ball. They said no, let him go and play. After he has played, there's no law that says a child has to do homework first before they play. They have to eat before. There's no law. This law that parents always say, you come back from school, you can't go and play until you do your homework. Says who? These are the 4 things he needs to do. If he wants to play first, let him go and play. He will let out a lot of energy. When he comes back, then he can be more present. So you engage with him. Then I also thought that his attention span is short. Don't try to force him beyond his ability.
Yes.
Do small, let him go. Do small, but as long as you are working with time, he will be building capacity. So also number 2, you heard that she talked about enriching the home environment with the right tools. I remember that I think this might be the toys that teach. She has all different kinds of toys you can buy. Play. I have this book, the play manual, different kinds of play. So all the when my child plays too much, no. Then books, the kind of books that you need to buy. So she has to do a lot of reading to him, buying the right tools, and engaging with him how to play. Because initially, you don't know how to play, just be throwing everything everywhere. Engage, be patient, and teach him the structures in place. And another thing you heard, she said, adjusting your life. It's not the child that will adjust to your life or you adjust to the home. It's you that you adjust your home, your life overall. You understand? I'm sure you don't want to know the things that she had to give up for a long time before she could now go back, because the rest you are looking for, you must pay the price first. You must all the dreams that you have. By the time I'm 30, I would have had my PhD. By the time all those things. If your child comes in, you have to restructure. Sometimes you need to take a pause because the first few years are the most critical. You're not okay, they are still young, go and do everything you want to do when they come back, or go and give your mommy or somebody staying with you. No, you have to pay the price. Yourself and her husband, they have to do the work. Nobody's going to do it for you. No matter the professional, nobody is going to go all out for your child as much as you will. So you don't want to know the sacrifice and everything. Of course, everybody's picture will not be the exact, but the principles are the same. The parent is the pilot. The parent getting knowledge, being empowered. How do you know the right school? A good school. That school she's talking about is not that it's not a good school. It's a good school, but it's not the right school for her son. The one thing that really when she spoke to me for the first time, then that struck me with the other school that I preferred was that it was a school that they partnered well with parents. Even though they didn't have certain things, they listened. She brought suggestions, they were open, and I think that she had like somebody that maybe a therapist or somebody that could come. They were suggestions. A school where they are open to suggestion, they're ready to partner with you. That is a wonderful school. They may not have all the resources, but you now have the resources you want to bring, teach them this. They were open to, for me, that was a good flag, or how I put it, a good.
I remember telling you that this other school had a playground, while the first school where it was didn't have a playground.
Yeah,
and my son had to be dispensing his energy. And the school, despite expensive as it wasn't. There was no provision for play. And I was like, you now make me realize that if there's no provision for play, then there's no way that boy will thrive in that school. So we have to just weigh our options and then move.
Yeah. So those are the things that play. Then even at home too, they had a place. You go and play every day. You go and say, leave him alone. Go and play. Then I tell you, so get him to buy the red bike. Yeah, play.
There is always a routine for play.
Yeah. Play the work of a child. So if you are here, just know as a parent, play is the work of a child.
There is always a time to play. Whether it's outdoor or indoor, they play with sand. Even as he's about almost 10 years now, he still go out to play with sand. I give him every day, inside 24 hours, we have at least 1 hour 30 minutes to play. And it's very useful.
Yes, go ahead, ma.
It's very helpful because it is when I realized that when he plays, he is able to self-regulate better. He's able to put himself into check. And before you know, he's the most organized amongst my children, even more organized than I am. If you see this guy that is diagnosed with ADHD, remember that somebody who is hyperactive and being organized cannot say in the same sentence. But I tell you, he's even much more organized than I am in the house. My children, if you see his space, his wardrobe, it's always very neatly arranged, and he works with time. He has a particular time he wakes up. His brain is wired that way. Once it's 4:30 a.m., bam, my son is awake. He just moves like he knows what to do per time.
Because you were able to put that structure in place, you were consistent with it. And I remember telling her that time, I want to even teach language. Start small. Use the routine, shower time, use the same words. Everything. When you create a structure, you begin to feed the structure. So if you create the structure, you now build skills. So is this when you say you can regulate, it's the skill he has developed. You see, that's what I was telling parents that the skill is the thing. Your skill comes into play and you use that skill. So when you say a child outgrows, children don't outgrow things, no, crying, anything, they don't outgrow it. They build a higher skill that helps them to navigate. So why he looks so structured and routine is the skill. So he uses that skill. And by the way, let me say for parents that don't know, when they play, their nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, parasympathetic and sympathetic. Sympathetic is your flight or fright, that is like all over the place. Just parasympathetic is the calm. So when they play, they are able to activate more of the parasympathetic. So they are able to regulate their nervous system. So when you see that the child is all over the place, throwing it, having a meltdown, is this nervous system that's overdrive. He's gone to school, they've been busy, no breaks, nothing. So when you put breaks, allow him to play, he is able to activate the calm of his nervous system. So that's why he can now focus. A child that is nervous system is all over the place, and that's why your child needs breaks in school. They need play. How can you have no playground? So that means those children are just going to be feeding them, feeding them. There is no system of rest, so to speak. So rest is not just siesta. Rest is not sleeping. Rest is doing things that play is a form of rest. You know that when you have worked and worked and worked and you go and
Yeah.
play soccer is a form of rest. So rest is not sleeping. Rest is doing things that brings the calm to your nervous system. You see? So a child playing, so when your child comes back from school and says, I want to go and play outside, you're wondering, you just go back from school, you should go and sleep. No. That going to play outside is a form of rest because it is an outlet. So when he goes to play outside, he comes back, he's energized, he's focused, he can do his homework, he can eat, he can arrange everything. Play outside, riding bicycle, play is a form of rest. Why? He's activating, he's calm, he's letting out the So that's why it's working for him. So she has been able to put all those things so that he can cook, he can do laundry, he can iron, he can oh my God.
If I start saying a lot of what he's doing now, as I am now, I just lost my dad and I'm not in the house, right? 70% he can manage himself. 70%, no jokes. And I'm very, very well. All I need to do is just check up on them. What are you doing? And he is, by the time I go to check, their school uniform is already ironed. He irons them. He even makes sure the younger ones are in check. His leadership skills are top notch. This is a child who was struggling with a developmental milestone, learning disability. In fact,
I wasn't reading. Good, I will sit down, read. Okay. He won't even listen to you.
I'm telling you. I don't even need, he cannot do a day without reading. No jokes. He cannot even sleep without reading.
But that is a lot of how many books you got reading to him. All this thing she's saying, she was doing it for him, with him. After a while, started withdrawing her, do small. So it's not that the boy just started doing it though. So, we are 6 years.
I will reading to him, and over time, every night we read bedtime stories. We do songs, soothing songs. A lot of that. Over time, we've been doing that, and this has now ingrained and now becoming part of the culture, part of the system. Routine instead of him, that it now became automatic, right? So that I can easily step away and I'm rest assured that these things are well in place.
Thank you so much, Mrs. So I'm just going to tie everything this thing so that you understand. She came from a place of overwhelm. She came from a place of accepting the child that she had, not the one that she wished she had. Of course, there was the point of grieving. I explained grieving. Now grieving the loss of the child you wish you had, what you thought you had, but you have to get to a point where, okay, let me step up. So stepping up as the parent. Remember, today is about stepping up. Today is about the importance of you as the parent. You are the pilot. You take the front seat. You become step up as what I call a therapy partner. You don't replace the professional, but you partner with them effectively to be able to support your child. Of course, when she reached out to me to troubleshoot, that's part of, when reaching out to me, working with a professional gives you knowledge, gives clarity, shapes your perspective, then you are able to move. So with that empowerment, there are certain things that she will just see. She say, no, she will know that this one is not, this one that she reaches out to me, I give her feedback, then not being afraid to seek for help and get direction. A diagnosis is a direction. It is a starting point. Of course, putting the structures in place and working with the child over the years. I want you to just in rounding off, just to encourage someone looking back. I want you to mention how much the importance of you stepping up as a parent. How would you say that really shaped? Okay, number one, first of all, reaching out to me and having that session or those sessions feedback. How did it help you? How did it change your perspective, or how did it what did that do to you on your journey, so that parents will understand that if you don't have the knowledge, if somebody doesn't open your eye, you may not be seeing things the right way. Or how did that help you to, first of all, how did it shape your perspective or change your mindset, or what did it do to you?
Okay, so as we all know, it didn't just happen overnight, right? Even as at then, when your suggestion, your interventions that you shared with us wasn't really making any sense, but we took that decision that if we want the best for our child, we have to follow through. Let us try. There's no harm in trying, right? And then we realized that, look, there's no magic moment anywhere. We have to sacrifice for this child. And then over time, we started noticing the little shifts, even in our own self. Because aside from becoming self-aware with what is happening in that situation, we were able to evolve to become better parents, because we now saw that our child could sit a little longer. He could even follow one instruction, then two, and then the meltdown that he was having became less intense. The frustration started to reduce, and then something beautiful began to happen. The child that people, because there's no way you see Asha and not know that he's all over the place as of that time. That child that people were calling, too much, this boy is too much, all over the place, that child started showing that he was actually full of potentials. His energy was now turned into something that is more creativity. His curiosity became intelligence, and his restlessness now became started finding direction, right? Because we were able to come into that position that we are stewardess. We are here to do the work. We are not just passengers. We are the pilots. We are the one that can help steward the destiny that God has placed in our care. So as of that, everything now became to put be like is in place, one step at a time. We are not there yet, true, we are not there yet, but I tell you, we are way 70% away from where we used to be, just because we were able to see ourselves like, look, this is our child that God has given us to steward, and we have partners on this journey, and all we needed to do was just yield and become key players in shaping the destiny of this child. And then we realized something powerful, right? Nothing was actually wrong with him. He just needed to be understood differently. And that was where the change became very evident.
Yeah, I like that you had to change your perspective first instead of waiting for the child to change. Like what you were even saying, that people started seeing differently. I believe that you started seeing the child differently, first of
Yes.
all. That you
Mm.
seeing him differently. And you know what I tell parents is that these children are very smart. The way you see them, they know. If you don't believe in them, because I had a parent say who shared a story, as one of her sons. She had three sons who had developmental delay. They're all fine now. And she said she was asking one of them one day that those days that you couldn't speak, what was going through your mind? She was trying to get his thinking. He now said that, do you know one thing? That mommy, you believed so much in me. And you believing in me challenged me. So I challenged myself to be able to meet up to that standard. So I tell parents that when you to your child, like what you were saying, who you see the child being, it has a level of it puts a level of faith in them, that you believe in them. So it's like you're setting a standard for them. They want to meet up to it. The same way if you are looking down on the child, like the child is dull.
Mm.
That's why sometimes I'm like, when you start saying, I say cat, say dog, I didn't really they're not able to do it, even though they understand it, they can't express it. They you feel like you're treating them below. It affects their own esteem too. But when you act like you believe in them, encourage them, you celebrate little progress, it motivates. So they understand. Even when you're not talking, your body language, your all those things, it's like a feedback. It's like an energy or an aura for the child. So you changing your own perspective to, I believe in you, we're on this together. It will make the child also even begin to change how he sees himself, and he would even be trying. And that's how people too will begin to see. You understand? Because if you see your child as whatever, people would also have that same lens. But once you change your perspective, is it cascades. And I want to just speak to any parent out there who, I mean, like, I mean, who is feeling overwhelmed, hopeless, who is currently where you were. If you had to say one or two things to them, what would you like to say to such a parent? Even though, yes, it doesn't have to be the same diagnosis, but any parent navigating developmental delay challenge or having that overwhelm, I'm sure you know that feeling. If you had to speak to someone who was in that state, what would you like to tell such a parent?
So I'll say this with all my heart. Breathe. I know it feels heavy right now. I know it feels like nothing is working. I know you are tired because I'm on this journey as well. But do you know what? The diagnosis is not the end of your child's story. Your child is not difficult. They are just different. They are just wired differently. I tell myself every day, my child is wired differently. And different is not a limitation, it's a call for understanding. Please never parent from the angle of fear, please. We have to step up and parent from the vantage point of knowledge, right? Never give up on that child. And please, most importantly, don't give up on yourself, because you are the most important factor in that child's life. You're the first environment of that child. So you need to put yourself in that position to see that you are a destiny helper, right? You are part of the destiny of that child. True, the progress may be slow, but slow progress is still progress. You are moving, you're heading somewhere. Your child is still your child. They are not broken, they are not a burden, they are not behind in life. You will be surprised at the so many results you are going to see later in life. Keep at it, don't give up. They just simply need that support and understanding. And above all, intentional parenting. Intentional parenting, please. That's all I can say. Never ever give up on that child. Never.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Toketos. I love that difference is a call for understanding.
Yeah.
Difference doesn't mean less. It is just different, and it calls for understanding. And never ever give up. I will tell parents that your child is counting on you. If you give up, what happens? Even God is counting on you.
Yeah.
It may not be easy, but it is doable. There may be down moments, but keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. And remember, like she said, intentional, be intentional. And if you don't know what to do, you must know where to go. Let's help you.
Thank
Let's
you.
help. There's help. Don't just sit down there and be saying it is well. It is well, yes, but I remember I said that your faith and your prayer needs to have a target. If your faith
Yes.
doesn't have a target, then that is fear. That is fear. So your faith, your prayer must have a target. So if you don't have something, a target, a focus, if you can't name it, you can't name it. If you cannot, if you don't have a direction, then it's like I just throwing things here and there. Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Dr. Topstar.
Thank
I
you
mean,
for
it's been an
having me.
amazing journey. Yes, you're still on a journey, but really, you're really a proof that when an informed and empowered parent becomes a parenting advantage for their child to navigate developmental challenges and thrive. And thank you so much. It's such a privilege working with you. Our star boy is it's such amazing to see, the great milestones he's attaining. He may not be, it's a lot of differences. Everybody doesn't have to fit into one box. There's no box anywhere. You
Yes.
understand? So you're also allowing these children to flourish. You stepping back. Sometimes this is how you used to do things. Somebody started. So step back sometimes. Their roughness or all over the place. They're actually trying to. I tell parents that that children like that, they are the 1% creative. Sometimes there's something on their inside that trying to give expression to that they have never even seen. So if you are stepping into stop it, that you're actually killing those things. Step back and even watch what they want to do. They want to create something, they want to innovate, they want to birth something. So you need to shift your perspective. Remember, difference is a call to understanding. I love that. Thank you so much. Such an honor. And thank you so much once again for coming. I know, I mean, the sacrifice you have to make to be here, and I'm really, 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 really grateful. Don't worry, we will meet where we my hair. We will meet where we meet. We know where
Yes,
we meet every.
mommy. Thank you for the
We know
honor.
where
I love you,
we are
Dr.
doing life
Lola.
together. Thank you so much, and have
Thank
a
you so
wonderful day.
much. You
Yes. Oh, I
too.
don't know. Ask me, I have a question for you. Do you have any question for her before she goes? Some parents are online. In case you have any question, please, any questions for her before she goes? Quick one, she has to run. Just do 1 or 2 minutes. Any questions for her? So at least maybe a parent out there who feel, if you have a question for her, just in 1 minute, we'll take the question and we will be back. Okay, I'll just take the adverts, and if there's no question when you come back, then we'll let you go. When
All
your
right.
child isn't meeting their milestones, like your child isn't talking like their peers, having behavioral instructions, or having learning difficulties, or maybe you are currently navigating a diagnosis such as autism, or even a learning disorder. You're trying to make sense of why your child struggles to attain skills that come so easily to others. Or do you find out that your child has been in therapy for several years, yet with little progress? This has left you with more questions than answers. At Autism Renewed, we see you and we are here to help. Hello, I'm Dr. Lola Okewu, a medical professional and a global autism expert. I am the founder of Autism Renewed, an organization that works with parents and families all across the globe, equipping them to navigate developmental challenges. There are no questions. So I'll say once again, thank you. Okay. Okay, I'm echoing. Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll see you. We'll see where we see. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
My wonderful Diana. That's your husband, Dr. Fortune. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. So yes, that was Mrs. Tokwe's Top Star. Before we round off today, I just want to share a few things. Remember, today is about stepping up. It's about sharing the story of hope. And oh, did you have to do speech therapy for your child? I'm not sure she had. I think I had a therapist in the school, but beyond the sessions they were doing in the school, she was also working with child at home, like she mentioned. So they had that's other school, they had therapists in the school, and they were working with her while he was in school, but also working with her. But one of the things that I did for her is that in working with me, she learned how she could partner with the therapist and also how she could work with the child at home as well. Because the child is with the parent most of the time. So like I was saying yesterday, whatever they're doing in school or in the session, to transfer it to everyday life, being at home, being able to interact with him, communicate with him, get him to be settled and all that. You see all those things. Yeah. So it was all encompassing. The school had therapists. Most schools have therapists and they do sessions in school. But beyond that, she had to understand how to translate what was being done in school to everyday interaction, like I said, for mastery and for generalization. Okay, all the things she was saying now at home, very restless all over the place. The therapist is not there all the time. So she was able to do that. So I hope that helps. Okay. So of course you heard her story. Like I said, everybody may not have like the same, it's not like seeing as doing like copy and paste exactly, but it's the process we're talking about. No matter where you are on the journey, no matter where your child is on the journey, it's just the principle of understanding the importance of a parent as a pilot, and no matter the intervention. So for example, talking about therapies now, how do you know the right therapist? So those are some of the things I helped her with. That what are the things you should look out for? Even the school that had therapists, how do you partner effectively? How do you maximize the sessions? Because I always say that any therapy that does not carry the parent or involve the parent is not an effective therapy. And even though they had therapy in school, it's not a therapy in isolation. I know a lot of parents who They just say the child has therapy in school. What are they doing? You don't know. What are the goals? You don't know. Because I tell parents that, do you even know that even if you're working with a therapist, it's the parents that actually set the goals? Not, I mean, that's the ideal thing. Before they do any plan for your child, any therapist, any professional, they even an IEP. An IEP is individualized educational plan. I know in different countries they call it something else. In UK they call it I can't remember what they call it, but individualized educational plan. Ideally, the parents or the caregivers set the goals. So they ask you, what would you like to work on for your child for the next 1 year or this term? So even for your therapy, so they don't just start therapy sessions. They ask you, what are your goals as parents? What are your expectations? And of course, even if you now have maybe unrealistic expectations, they can now bring in their expertise. Say, okay, no, this particular expectation you have, we need to work on this particular skill before we work on that particular IEP. In UK, they call it one name. They call it one name. It's not UK don't use IEP. I don't know what they call it. It has one name. See something. I can't remember what they call it in UK. But most places they call it IEP. US, here in Australia, IEP, individualized educational plan. Some places they call it individualized support plan or personalized education. But I think in UK it has one name. Or maybe I know it has a name, but that's the whole idea. You understand what I mean? Individualized education. So even your IEPs, your therapy, whether it's speech or anything, the parents set to go. So EHCPS, hand out the EHCPS, such that if a child is just doing therapy in school, a parent has to know how they can effectively partner with the therapist or how they can get involved. When I mean involved, I'm not saying involved to disrupt what they are doing, involved to partner effectively. Because, like I mentioned, therapy is not in isolation. You're not just doing therapy, okay, you use therapy for the therapy room and it ends there. So, whatever they are teaching the child in school, how does the child translate those skills to everyday life at home if someone is not there to be like the intermediary, you see? Because the child, when you teach a child something, it doesn't stay. It's not like when you do therapy session, the therapy stays in the body of the child and is working till the next session. That's not how it works. So that's why I say that when you do 1 hour therapy a week, 1 hour a week, and come back next week, is now in the body of the child. No, it's not like a medicine, no. Because therapy is a concept of practice. So you must be able to translate what is being done in that session to different um different scenarios for opportunities of practice. Is that where the parents come in? So you see why I say that any therapy that is not having the caregiver as a parent be involved to translate what is being done to everyday life is not likely to be effective, because when you just do something in isolation and you now come back next week, it's not as if what you did last week is now in the body of the child. It's not. And if the therapist is not there with the child, in everyday real life scenarios, how do they even really know the effective things to really teach? So sometimes you now see things are being taught in isolation. They're just teaching words, just sounding words, car, cat, sat, rat. And it doesn't make sense because you don't use cat and rat to interact every day. So you're just learning those words in isolation. And you don't learn language in isolation. You learn words and language to be able to communicate for every day. So that's why you see some children have words. They can sing, they know number, but they're not talking. Yeah, because you don't use 1, 2, 3 to talk. You don't use, okay, that you know ABC or you know your sounds or you know your colors. It doesn't translate to communication, you see. So if you're not careful as a parent, you won't be able to bridge that gap to take what is being taught. And also, it's not just what is being taught you're learning the strategy of interaction. So when you are with the professionals, they'll be able to help you see how they are interacting with the child to build the skills, to bring out the language, to engage the child. You will be seeing how they are doing it with different things. It can be toys and another thing. And even some of those things they are using, most of the time they use toys, all those resources, some of them you can actually even buy them, or you might even have some of them. So that interaction is what makes it different. Like a parent reached out to me, she was asking me, what was she asking? About what kind of book. I think she was asking maybe worksheets to teach hmm, a subject. So she mentioned something, and I told her, no, it's not about giving you a worksheet. Even if I give you a worksheet, it's about how to interact with that material with the child, not necessarily just giving you. So I can take even the normal thing that you have, but there is a way I'm going to interact with the child with it to build those skills, to enhance that process. So that's where the parent or the caregiver have to come in so that they can understand and understudy the process of interaction and engagement so they can replicate it in everyday interaction at home. So that helps the child to be able to communicate and begin to build those skills at home, outside of that environment, and even in different places. When you go out to the mall, you go to your cousin's place, you go to church, anywhere you go, you are learning that method of interaction. And of course, if you now experience certain challenges, you can come back to the professionals and say, okay, we're having this challenge with this, or this at home. We have this particular challenge. They're able to troubleshoot for you. And you say, okay, I know, maybe try this or try that. Oh, maybe this is what it's causing. How about you do this? That is what therapy should look like. Not come and learn something in isolation, just learn the words, just making the child comply, and those things don't translate to everyday life skill. Also, your therapist can help with different other things like how to create social stories and other things like that. So yeah, so of course we've had the parent session. So now we're back. Now let's talk about, let's highlight some of the things that really made a difference on our journey. And like, I'm sure you're wondering, a lot of things she said, it ties to some of the things I mentioned yesterday. It's as if she was here yesterday to spy on my notes, and I know she wasn't here. Talking about, stepping up, talking about having to change, having to look beyond the diagnosis, talking about parenting the child that you have. There's a child you wish you have. That's the grief process I was talking about. Grief is a loss. Grief is loss. And I talked about grief doesn't have to be death alone. Mourning, yes, can be death, but grief can be, you can grieve someone, something. You can grieve the child you wish you had. You can grieve the child you had, or a life you had or you wish you had. So sometimes that process is difficult for parents, but it's okay. But you need to move past that to now awareness, and now acceptance, and now taking the awareness and acceptance and diagnosis as a starting point to help your child. Like I said, I have a book called Embracing the Journey After a Diagnosis. Embracing the Journey After a Diagnosis. And those are some of the things I share in that book, how parents can move throughout the stages and how you can take the diagnosis as a starting point to engage your journey to supporting your child. So let's unpack some principles that have been shared today, talking about the parent as the pilot. I'm sure you remember that Mrs. Topper-Topsam emphasized that, how she took the stepped up. And those are the things I was able to help her to do. I was able to help her to see the power she had as a parent, because she came overwhelmed, felt helpless, and all that. But I made her to see that as a parent, you are the pilot. Step up as a therapy partner to help your child navigate. So in doing that, she was able to change the school, but you need knowledge. You can't pilot. A pilot is someone that has knowledge and is empowered to take charge, even in the midst of challenges. So, like I said, I believe an informed and empowered parent becomes parenting advantage. So that's why I believe in putting the power in the hand of the parent. So after during her session with me, some of the things that I made her see was, you are the pilot. And in doing that, okay, let's have troubleshooting. What are the different areas and aspects of the child's life that we can begin to change, or that we need to work on if you're going to help your child? So the school was a big factor. And by the time we looked at it together, the school that she thought was a good school, in fact, the child was in that school. And that school was the so-called, when people say, hey, school has a better standard of education. I'm like, what does that mean? There's nothing like that. Anytime the school has a better standard of education, what does it mean? It doesn't really mean anything. Because sometimes what we call standard of education might not be what the child needs. Remember, a good school may not be the right school. In fact, the school the child was, in quotes, a better school in terms of more resources, more expensive. You understand? So many things, but it was not the right school for the child, because remember, the child is the focus here. And by the time I helped her to see what her child needed, it became very clear that even though this school, they didn't have certain aesthetics and other things, but there were some key things, practical things. Number one was that they prioritized play. That other school, they prioritized, the children have to learn. They didn't incorporate enough time for play. Even if they had play or break time, it was very, very limited. They were more, they have to do academic. And I said, no, that's not what this child needs. This child needs a lot of, breaks and play. And besides, play is the work of a child. So if a school is not prioritizing play, I don't even really know. Like the parent that said the school of your child, 5 year old, 6 year old, or whatever age, they're using screen a lot. I don't know. To me, that's not the right school, even if it's a good school. They don't prioritize play, they prioritize read, all this read. That's not how you learn. Play is a tool to learn, to build skills. It's just that you may not know how to use it, or they may not be knowledgeable. Then another thing that for me that was that made me not prioritize this other school that the child was in, the in quote better school, was it wasn't a school. The other school, they partnered better with parents. So, and I was like, for me, I'll pick that any day, anytime. No matter the professional you're working, I don't get the expertise of the professional or the school or the educator. If you cannot partner effectively with them, partnering means that you can't go to them, okay, these are the suggestions, these are my concerns, these are the things I think are working or are not working. Like that parent that was talking about screen. Can you go to that school and go and talk to them? Try to educate them. Some schools are open to, normal knowledge, education, and also even things about your child. These are the things you're trying and it's working for us at home, or what are you doing in school? How can so because any intervention must be continuous. Any interaction or any intervention or any form of support must be continuous. So school is not separate from home. You see, so that's why I said that if a child is receiving therapy only in school, the parent must find a way to partner with them so that anything you're doing is continuous. That's why even the IEP or EHCP is not just shouldn't just be academics. It should be about the whole child. So in fact, your therapy, intervention, speech therapy, all those things, they're part of your IEP. They're part of learning. So that's why when a parent is saying during school hours, the child did not do so much of classwork, rather the child was doing a lot of therapy. I say, yeah, therapy is part of the learning of the child. So the child can go to school and a large number of hours in school, the child is doing therapy because you have to realize what is education, learning, what is learning, equipping for life. So if the therapy is helping to equip your child, helping them to gain skills, then it's part of their learning because that is the foundation for the so-called academic that you want them to learn in school. So if they don't have those skills in place, that means they don't have the capacity to take in. So I tell parents that what's the point of a child doing 9 subjects and they can't really understand. They don't have the skill to engage in what they're learning. There's no point. Drill down the subject and use a lot of the time for therapy and interventions if it's available. That's better. The point is that you don't understand the concept of therapy as building skills, and you don't understand the concept of building skills as the foundation to helping a child to navigate and to build to move up their developmental milestones or to gain the skills or the milestones that they are yet to gain. So if you understand that, then you will know that them doing those interventions is actually learning, is actually building the foundational skills, and they can actually use it as a tool. So things like even cooking and baking, they can use it to teach counting numbers, they can use it to build language, can use to enhance comprehension and all the other things that you want to just sit down and the child is just reciting in class. Yeah, say cats. Yeah, that's just rote learning. Do you understand? Things that they can do with their hands during playtime, they can teach a lot of things. Learning is not just sitting down and the teacher is talking and they're listening, or they are just writing and they are copying notes, copying notes, copying notes. Those things don't make sense, because they're not building skills for life. Okay. So she changed her home environment as well. You know, and one of the things she got was this my book, Toys That Teach. Because in this book I outline the kind of toys you should have and the play manual and the raising bright reader. So to enrich the home. So they change the home environment, screen out of the way, and normal screen, of course. If your child has an AAC device, for example, the technology of that is not like a normal screen, because that's a communication device. So I always try to make that distinction. Because every time I talk about screen, some parents who their children are using a communicative device, that's AAC. They always like, oh, so what are you saying that this? No, AAC is not a consumption. So screen is consumption. You see, it just sits down in front of the screen, it's consuming. Even if it's educational, it's consuming. An AAC device for communication is not consuming. The child is using it to communicate. There's a difference. Even however, in saying that the child still uses an AAC, for me, I will still, as much as possible, you can still encourage other ways of communication. So use the AAC as a tool for them to communicate while we're building other language skills if their child has the ability to gain language or learn language or build language skills. Then of course you partner with therapists, teachers, professionals. I taught her that how to partner effectively, how to maximize the resources around her. I realized that sometimes parents have wonderful resources, but they don't know how to maximize. Sometimes you may not be maximizing your child's teachers or educators or school. Yes, there are some resources that they may even have that you're not maximizing. Okay, don't worry, I'll talk about it in DAC before we go. I'll talk about it, just remind me, I'll explain to you what it is. So sometimes parents are not maximizing what do you call it, the resources they have around them, because sometimes the way you want to maximize the teachers or the educator, what you think that they should be teaching them might might not be what they need. So like the parent, like I said that I was having a session with her, and she was complaining that they make her child do a lot of, they do not the child is not doing so much of the maybe times table or those kind of things that the other children are doing in class. They do a lot of other extracurricular in school, like maybe they're doing baking, doing something creative, building that. She was just feeling like, no, the child is not learning. And I said, no, the child is learning, because they were teaching a lot of independent skills. And she was like, why are they just teaching the child how to maybe dress herself up, tie her shoelaces? They were doing a lot of baking, cooking, and all that. And I explained to her, I said, Ma, that's the best. That is even the best, because think about your child, parents with the future in mind. What are the things that will matter in years to come? Is it how much the child knows times table? A child that cannot be independent, cannot take care of himself, but he knows times table. Which one is better? So the school is not focusing just on rote learning, but they are also using it as a tool. It's because you don't understand it and you didn't ask. You're just assuming that they're not teaching the child. The child is not learning. The child is learning. They're using the baking. You can use baking, they bake cookies to count, to teach a lot of other skills. Do you understand? So, partnering effectively, staying consistent. I have to emphasize this. You know, I'm talking the first session I had with her, I'm sure I'm talking about 6 years ago. Yeah, I'm talking about 6 years ago. So it's been a journey. Not, oh, my child is starting school in September. Come and do one what do you call it, one magic between now and September and get the child to start talking and start doing everything. Is that possible? Yeah, I'm not saying it's not possible, but you can't have that what do you call it? You can't have that mindset that and put that tag to it, because it leads to frustration. I tell parents, it's not as if you shouldn't have expectations, but if you're just putting, okay, in 2 months this should happen, in 3 months that should happen, and you're not checking, I've been doing it for 2 months, you're just gonna get frustrated. So I always say, set your face like a flint. Where you should be troubleshooting and checking it, check your process. Just make sure you're getting it, get it right, and you get better. And that's when you're working with the correct professionals, they can help you to say, okay, we need to make these changes, we need to adjust. Because sometimes even your therapist, when you have a goal or you have a plan, sometimes, and that's why your plan, if you even do an IEP for a year, they break it down to 10. After this 10, they review. Where are we? Where are we? What are the things you need to put in? Because sometimes as you go along, some other things might show up that might inform you changing your strategy. You see, so just don't have a fixed mindset. But in 2 months, this will happen. In that one, no, don't be fixated like that. Think through your process and progress over just the outcome. So not just the result, the progress. The process is more important than just the full outcome that you want. All right. And I said, okay, of course, she talked about believing in her son's potential, changing her own perspective. So there are things that you can have control of, there are things that you don't have control of. You don't have control of what's happening inside the child's brain per se. So that's why I said you can't just have a fixed mindset. What you have control of is your environment. Okay, your environment, what the things you can control, your home environment, ensuring that it's the right environment, creating an enriching environment. For example, you want your child to develop language. There's a language enriching environment. There's some things that, I mean, there's an environment that does not support or I call it that it's not a functional environment. So your home environment should be a functional home environment, beginning with the location, exterior location. Yeah, I mean, even location, I mean, where your house, your house is located, the kind of house you're also staying. All these that you have a toddler, you're staying in. on the third floor story buildings. For me, with children, no, even as an adult, is a no-no for me. Of course, as an adult, if you cannot, maybe you don't have a choice, but for children, is a no-no. Yes, I understand, we are all in different phases in our lives, financial and all that, but if you're really going to prioritize your child, you need a home environment that's functional, that supports language development and all the milestone development, and interior of the house, how the house should be structured, what are things that should be prioritized in the house, what are the resources that should be made available. If you're talking about toys, it's not every kind of toy. There's some kind of toys that are the wrong kind of toys. Those are some of the things I share in my book. The wrong kind of toys. I remember a parent had a session with me, and luckily she was having another child. That was last year, and she got the book. This book, Toys That Teach. So she was expecting her, I think it was her second child. Yeah, she got the book, and luckily she had read the book. And by the time she had the child, so she got the book before she had the child. So by the time she had the child, and the child was growing older, she was now opening some of the toys or the gifts that she got. And lo and behold, one of the toys that have highlighted inside the book that is a no. She now said she just shouted, she sent me a message thanking me that thank God though that when I saw this toy, someone gave her that toy as a gift, and she was not laughing, that this toy, that when she saw it, that thank God that she read the book. If not, she would not have known. She would have been thinking that this is a good toy. But immediately she saw the toy, she just remembered, hey, I just read it in the book. No. So she sent me a message. It was quite funny. And of course, you modeling communication, interaction with the child, teaching emotional regulation. So you heard Mrs. Topper start talking about skills. What I was talking about yesterday. You know, executive functioning skills, emotional regulation, building all those skills. Like I said, when children build higher skills, then they're able to use those skills to navigate. So a child having behavioral issues and things like that, if you're able to build skills where they learn how to regulate themselves. For example, her son has learned how to, when he plays, it's a form of outlet for him. That's one of the ways he regulates himself. All the other creative things he does too, there are ways he regulates himself. Also, he has built, they've built a routine for him. So that routine is able to help him to be organized and not all over the place. So some of us are children. Sometimes what you're seeing as restlessness, disorganization is because a lot is going on. Their mind is very active. So you need to be able to help to train them and channel um what is going on in their mind, to put it, when you have routine structure, create a form of outlet. So things like, she didn't even get to say so many things like getting him to journal. So he journals every day. He has a journal, he has a routine, a habit tracker. So she have all those kind of journals, that she was able to create, or not that she created it, but you can use any journal. Those are the systems that she put in place. So when you're talking about routine and structure, it's not just routine and structure. Routine and structure there are tools that help with these routines and structure. So routine and structure is not just by mouth, do this, do that. No. How you are able to have charts, have SOPs, everything you want them to learn. There's a process, pasting it, doing it with him, doing it for him, things like that. Also things like having a journal where he can journal is like a to-do list. So she started with doing it for him, to-do list, okay? Then creating the routine, the morning routine. What are the 4 things he will do in the morning before going to school? She has listed it and started doing it together every day. These 4 things, we do this. When you wake up, we brush. So those 5 things every morning. Night routine fixed. Afternoon routine after school, they have a fixed routine. These are the 4 things we do. So set a time to it. Now show him how each one is done. So that's why it's a lot of work. It's not just just do it like that. No, and just arrive. Then in doing those things, you are building skills. You are using those structures, those routines to build. So in language, to communicating with him. In communicating with him, in the morning he wakes up, when she's sharing with him, as she's talking to him, interacting with him, showing him those things, then allowing him to do, stepping back, in eating too. Before he couldn't feed himself, she was feeding him. In feeding him, showing him how it's done, then step back, watch him do it. He makes mistake, a lot of patience, all right? Then harnessing opportunities as well, learning opportunities throughout the day, then other things, um, and all that, okay? So I talked about being an informed and empowered parent. That's what really leads to transformation. All right. Our son has sensory needs, it was hyper everywhere, wasn't following instruction. But being able to look beyond that and now create an environment that will now get him engaged and understand him that he needs an outlet, allowed him to play, created that outlet for him, and begin to put those structures and routines and adjust the environment, and remove the screen, partner with the school, all those things. Gradually, you started seeing results, and things that were working, started enhancing them and started modifying the things that we're still having issues with. So like I talked about two ditches parents can fall in. You can become informed, but you're not empowered. That means you're informed that you know that okay, this is happening. You read a lot, know what is happening, attend meetings and all that, but you're not acting. So that's knowledge without transformation. You just have the knowledge. So that knowledge just becomes like information in your head. Um, if another parent you can have is that you are empowered, that means you want to take action, but you don't have strategy. So it's just like saying that I have intentions. I desire this for my child. You can't just desire in isolation. You can't just want this. And that just becomes a wish. You need the right knowledge. You need the right knowledge in your hand, because the right knowledge to be able to channel in the right direction. Because like I was talking about why some therapy don't work yesterday. Some things have to be layered in the right way. Then something might be good, may not be right for the child. Something might be good, it may not be the right time for it to be introduced. Like she was saying that at a point they took away screen completely. That even when they had to introduce screen, there's so many things that she didn't get to say. She have a media plan. So screen is not just watch anytime. No, there's something like that. Their screen is curated, minimal but strategic. There's certain things they're trying to watch. Maybe documentary about something that is learning. They're trying to do is trying to learn about something, it's trying to create something. So all those kind of things, strategic, not just sitting and consuming. No, not not doing that. All right. So you want to take action, but you don't have um the right knowledge or the right tools. Then that means that your knowledge, your passion or your zeal is just going to be channeled in the wrong direction. So the goal to transformation is being empowered and being informed, having the right information and having in the right direction. Okay, so she got informed, she got empowered, and she acted, and she trusted the process, like she said. I remember when I was talking to her the first time, I was more like, everything I said, she'd be like, he cannot. I said, stop saying he cannot. Okay, believe that he can. Believe that he can. She said, okay, okay, okay. But she's one step at a time. All right. She got informed about her child, understanding the specific challenges, taking away the diagnosis, learning about what are the possible areas you begin to address. All right, understand the strategies, observe your child, then knowing her own role as the parent and being able to change the environment and their life to be able to support her son. Of course, she took action one step at a time and she was consistent. Came back for constant check-ins, I troubleshoot, okay, I've done this. She okay, we're having this challenge, you can tell her, okay, do this and all that. And sometimes I say, okay, you need this kind of resource and all that. Okay, talk to the therapist in this way, create this and create that. Or some might teach, okay, do this and do that. Or go to school and find out this. If you're going for a meeting, you're having a parent-teacher meeting, what are the things, how do you prepare for such a meeting? You understand? Those are the things that part of the things that I teach. Like you want to go and find out in school, what are the questions you should ask. When you're having an IEP meeting, for example, what should an IEP meeting look like? You don't just go for a meeting. Anything they're saying, you just say, you can't ask questions, you can't contribute. You can't really participate. Anything they tell you, just take it. You know, because there's some things that they need you to bring forward that really help them. But if you don't have much knowledge, you just agree with everything, you don't know how to measure progress, you don't really, know so many things. You understand? You don't know what to ask, you don't know what to demand for. Like I was talking about, any IEP, any therapy that you doing for your child, you as the parent, ideally, you're the one that sets the goal. They will ask you what are your goals, what do you want? They work with you to achieve those things. Then if you're having unrealistic goals, they can also educate you and say, okay, no, we need to build these skills uh, before we build another skill. But if you don't know those things, how do you go for a meeting? Okay. Someone reach out to me. Are you in the Telegram community? If you're in the Telegram community, you can drop a message in Telegram community, I guess. In Telegram community, or if not, you can inbox me on let me put social media. handle on and DM me on what do you call it? DM me on Instagram. Can send me a DM on Instagram at Ask Dr. Lola. Instagram. Let me. So, what was I saying? Not my train of thought now. Okay, yeah. How do you go for a meeting? You understand? How do you go for a meeting? Some parents don't know. You go for parents teacher meeting or open day or whatever, or they even say they want to meet you, they want to see you or things like. Because I know most schools at least once a term, usually they would have meeting with the parents. Except some parents, I know some parents will not go anyway, but that's the ideal thing. Usually they would have a meeting with the parents um once once a term. So how do you go for a meeting? What are the kind of things you should questions you should ask? All those kind of things you need to know. So you can DM me, whoever. If you're on the Telegram, if you're in our Telegram community, just drop a message there. And yeah, but if you're not, you can DM me on Instagram at Autism Renewed. Send me a message on Instagram if you are not in the Telegram community. So then, of course, partnership with the professionals. All right. Like I said, therapy does not happen in isolation. Therapy, the concept of therapy is different from treatment. I'm sure maybe tomorrow I'll talk a bit more about that. It's concept of practice. All right. So, but you must be able to transfer what is done in the therapy room or session. Even if therapists come to the house, 1 hour, 1 hour a week is really not enough. 1 hour even 1 hour every day really is not enough. So don't think. I know people say, "Oh, something is better than nothing." Not when it comes to therapy. So you need to understand the concept of therapy. Oh, just manage this one. At least it's better than nothing. No, not sometimes it's better not to even do that, or that little time rather train the parent, not the child. So those 1 hour a week, and I have parents who 1 hour in 2 weeks, 45 minutes in 2 weeks. I have clients in, America, Canada, UK, Australia is the same thing. Because I know that getting therapy hours can really be challenging, of course, because funding is not is the would I say the what we call the burden of the disease. When I mean the burden, like you have so many people, so many people needing those services more than resources available, even professionals available. So sometimes that's why you have that kind of challenge. So it's not that the government just means that okay, we're not just going to give you hours. No, it's actually a lot because you have so many people needing it. So that you're going to be able to get so many hours, not likely. So how do you now bridge the gap? That's where you come in as a parent or a caregiver, that you can maximize the little hours you're given, but not just maximize it that they are doing the session, maximize it that you are learning, you're partnering, so that you can help translate what is being taught to everyday life for practice for the child. So for me, when parents have limited hours, in fact, I prefer, because parent training is part of the therapy session or package, that it should be part of it. So I always advise parents that at least, even if it's one, if you're doing every week, one a week, one session a month at least, you should be focused on the parent. In fact, personally, I believe that if you're doing 1 hour a week or 1 hour in 2 weeks, I'd rather train the parent than train the child, because that 1 hour in 2 weeks for the child to me really nothing, because it's not really going to do anything. Because like I said, you need the concept of practice. So when you're doing therapy, it doesn't stay inside the body of the child till the next session. That's not how it works. So it's going to be like nothing, because if there's no opportunity of practice to potentiate what is being done, then it looks like you didn't do anything. You see, because therapy is not treatment. Treatment is you use the tablet. Tablet is working in your body 24 hours till the next dose. That's not how therapy is. So you want to learn to play soccer. If you can, you do 1 hour practice a week and become a pro. Not likely. You're not likely to going to be like you're starting to learn like 1 hour a week, 1 hour in 2 weeks. There's not going to be mastery, you see. So that's why you need to know how to partner effectively with professionals. So based on what you have available, how do you maximize it? If that's what you have available, there are strategies. Those are some of the things I help parents to troubleshoot. And how do you pick the right professional? A good professional may not be the right professional, because you need professionals and people that will partner effectively with you. Because remember, it's always everything about the child, all right? how do you transfer the skills, then your parent role, as a parent, you set the vision. You're the one that sets the goals and what you want. You're able to track progress, you're able to make all the final decisions. You decide the school, the decision still falls on you. So if you are not empowered, or knowing what is the right fit for your child, something good may not be the right fit for your child, then you won't be able to advocate for your child effectively, and you won't be able to even maximize the resources that you have. Of course, the professionals will now bring their expertise and their tools to partner with you on that journey. All right. But at the end of the day, they're going to partner with you on the vision and the goals that you have. So if you don't get it right on that, then you can't really blame the professional. All right. But effective partnership between the parents and the professionals is what really leads to transformation. Okay. So of course, there are different questions you ask your professionals. You have to know the questions to ask. Okay. So if you are not knowledgeable, how do you know what to ask? All right. That's why I said that if you're doing just therapy in school and you're not interacting with them, how do you translate those things to everyday life? All right. Um, so finally, talk about moving from encouragement to empowerment. So, like I said, this session today was story of hope, not just hope like testimony and just encouragement. No, move from encouragement to empowerment. All right. That's why I always say that all the just awareness. Your awareness must not stop as being aware or having the knowledge that something of the existence of a challenge with your child, or having a diagnosis. You must move to empowerment. When you move to the point of empowerment, that means that your diagnosis just becomes a starting point, just gives it direction. And that's when you begin to act. Okay, not just knowing. Now you step up to doing. All right. So encouragement, we just say, oh, don't give up, stay strong, keep up alive, need to get better. You know, encouragement is just passive. Yeah, it will suit your emotion temporarily, make you feel good, make you, okay, I'm not alone. People are feeling this with me, but it doesn't change anything. But empowerment means, okay, yes, stay strong, don't give up, keep up alive, parent the child you have. But here's what you need to do. You need to understand what is happening. You need to look beyond the diagnosis or the label. Don't place a seal on the child. Here are the strategies, you know, here are the areas you need to look at. You need to look at the school environment. This is what a right school looks like for your child. You need to understand your child so you know what is right for them. Here's how to partner with professionals effectively. Here's how to take the next step. Okay. The difference is that empowerment will give you tools, will give you knowledge, to move, to act, to create change. While encouragement just suits your emotions and makes you just feel good, and nothing is being done. All right. So, like I said, empowerment is changing your mindset. They're empowered to shift your perspective, believe in your child, focusing, okay, what are the skill gaps, building skills, creating the right environment, understanding what your child needs, understanding their challenges, and being able to make changes to support them, acting, reaching out for support. All right, with the right experts and getting the right knowledge. Empowerment is, you may not know what to do, but you know where to go. You know there's a challenge. I don't really know. Seeking out and reaching out. All right. So, and that has to do with stepping. So in stepping up, today's about stepping up. Yesterday we had, got clarity, shifted our perspective from just diagnosis and labels as a ceiling to looking at diagnosis and as a door, as a starting point, as a tool, as giving us direction. All right. So stepping up, what does that look like? Because that's what we're doing today. Too. The learning, you need to educate yourself. Get knowledge, get the right knowledge. Okay. Getting the right knowledge. That's what stepping up looks like. Getting the right knowledge, then implementing. All right, taking what you have learned and putting it into practice, creating the structure, the routine, the systems, and being consistent. Remember, you need frequency, intensity, duration to be frequency, intensity, duration. All right, correct partnership. All right, partnership with the right professionals, the schools, the teachers, medical professionals, therapists, where you're partnering with them, they transfer what is done in school or therapy session to everyday life. When you have challenges, you can come back and you have a shared vision, common goal. There's all called the MDT, multidisciplinary team. So those are all the professionals working together for the child and for to help and support the child. So everyone is working with a common goal. That's why your IEP is not isolated. That's why usually even if you have a speech therapist, a behavior therapist, it's not they are not separate. We're all working together for the child. So that's why when I work with parents, I teach parents how to be the center core and how to work, make sure everybody. That's why the parents is the one that will do it because your speech therapist may not know your behavior therapist, may not know your doctor, but you, the parent, you know everybody. So you are at the center that can bring everybody together. Not bringing them together physically, but when you're going to one person, because you understand the goals, you understand what is being done, you can communicate that so that you have a common goal all around. And when the professionals work together, and if one professional notices something that another professional is the one that will handle, they can communicate that effectively to you, then you can communicate that. Also helps you to advocate for your child's needs. I was talking about it that sometimes the system that the school is running we need to tweak a few things, and that's what inclusion is. Because when we talk about inclusion is not just tolerating a child in school, no, being able to make adjustments for the child needs. That's not being permissive, and that's not an excess. A child that needs enough breaks, for example, his attention span, you can advocate for him to have breaks in school, not necessarily breaks that he's running around. You can put things like maybe he'll be painting in between. He can, for example, if he learns to play an instrument, he can play an instrument. If he tends to be hungry at certain times and can cause behavioral issues because his blood sugar is low, you can advocate for him to be able to have a snack or permission to be able to take a drink in between when it's not even lunchtime. That's what advocacy looks like. Advocacy also looks like I've had clients I will tell them that they should go and reduce the number of subjects the child is doing because the child doesn't really have capacity and the skills to engage with so many subjects. So I said, go and advocate. So they go and advocate. Some of the subjects we look at it, okay, can we take this out for now? Because remember, education is learning for life. Learning is equipping for life. So some of the subjects that we are really children are really doing, trust me, they don't really need it. I mean, think about you and I. There's so many things that it's not really relevant to your life now. So at the end of the day, why waste so much time on it when we are talking about a child that we are still trying to build capacity. So we want to channel the capacity, the time, the resources into things that can benefit the child. Then as the child builds more capacity, then you can begin to incorporate things. So that's why I tell parents. And remember also your therapy sessions or intervention are part of the learning. So if a child is doing therapy in school, don't be pressured to say, oh, they're not doing all the classes. No, their therapy time is part of their learning. It's part of their equipping for life, part of building their skills. In fact, I had a parent reach out to me and she's in one country, I don't want to mention the name. She had the opportunity to get a slot at a therapy center. Therapy center is outside school, like a center where they do therapy. But they do the therapy during the day in that center because they run like a full day kind of session in that place. And during, of course, what we call school hours. So because it's like a full session. And she had the opportunity for a child was given a slot for like, I think 3 days a week, but it has to be in the morning, maybe something like maybe 8 to 12 or 8 to 2 kind of thing, which is the school hours and it's weekday. And she was like, she was considering it that maybe no, the child has to be. And I said no, she should go to school, go and advocate for her child in school and reduce the number of days in school. That's fine. I would rather pick going to that place 3 days, then go to school 2 days. Because you may say, oh, but the child is missing school, but the child is not even having enough skill to maximize what is being done in school. And that's why the child is needing therapy in the first place. So that therapy that the child is going for is part of their learning. It's not less. In fact, to me, it's more important because the skills the child will need to fully engage school, that's what is getting there. And what parents don't realize is that sometimes the therapy session, they incorporate the so-called learning of school, the tools and other things, so that they are doing it in a different way. Such that when the child builds capacity and skill, you'll be wondering, how did you know this? How did you know that? Because they incorporate it into the therapy. Because remember, education is learning, not just reciting or chanting ABC 1 2 3 or can now read cat sat on the rat and all that and all that. No, we're talking about building skills, building foundational skills, building capacity, understanding, comprehension, which are all the skills the child. So I told the parent, no, go and advocate for the child. What advocacy is, go to school and advocate, explain to them, you know, and take the child for those sessions. Then after like some time, when the child builds more capacity, they'll be able to engage and even maximize school better rather than just going to school and yet doesn't have the capacity to maximize what it means also engage effectively. All right. Of course, step number also means believing, keeping hope alive and keep going, even on down days. Are there days that you feel down, feel discouraged, and things like that? Yes, they're going to come, but you take a step back and you keep going, refusing to let the diagnosis to be a ceiling or to be a stopping point or to place a cap on your child. Seeing the child as a person, not just a label. See this person there. Okay, so working with the professionals helps to balance. You need to ensure a very good balance. All right. So you need to know how to work effectively professional, how to maximize them. All right. So don't just think, oh, they are the experts. I don't know anything. No, they need you to be able to support your child effectively. They may know the method, but you are an expert on your child. And to be able to, for a method to work effectively, you need to understand the person of the child, which is where you come in. So you help them to understand your child, and you even help them to bring their expertise to crystallize those methodology to ways that are suitable to your child. All right. So both are necessary, both are valuable, both are suitable. So remember, it's not a concept of one is better than the other or superior to that. They are all needed. All right. So as a parent, when you lose you as a parent, there are times when you may lose your voice. So that means a passive parent saying, oh, okay, just say, okay, you don't understand what they're saying, just agree to everything, or you're just overwhelmed. You understand? So I want you to not just don't lose your voice, all right? Step up, step up and take your place as the pilot. Okay, you just keeping quiet, going with the flow. It's not going to help your child. Your child needs you to speak up, to step up, get knowledge, partner effectively, and advocate where necessary. Okay, so you need to step up and reclaim your voice, reclaim your position as an empowered parent, as a pilot on this journey. Ask questions when you're engaging with the professionals. Of course, be respectful, do it in a dignifying way. There's strategies to do. I teach parents all those things. You're going to go and see your child's teacher. How do you approach them? Understand? Some parents will approach them in a very brash way, maybe because they're overwhelmed and things like that. You have to approach them in a respectful way. There are ways that you can maximize, those interactions. You can share your observations, trust your own instincts as well. But of course, also sometimes trust the process as well. Because sometimes, they may be seeing a lens that you don't see. What you are thinking is the most important thing, may not be. Do you understand? So you need to also trust if you cannot trust them, then I mean, you can't expect whatever they're doing to us. You have to have a level of hope and faith as well in the professionals they're working with. Trust them. And that is the mutual relationship. They listen to you, you also listen to them. Of course, they say something, okay, no problem, try it out and give opportunity. Okay, we'll review that after 1 month. Can we review it after the end of the term to see how that is working? Okay, not just saying, oh, no, no, I know my child, I know my child, no, just being close minded. No, they have experience, they have expertise, there are things that they know that you obviously don't know. So the goal is not trying to be right, or it's about doing what is best for the child. All right. So be flexible as well to their suggestions and opinions. All right. So, and that's why having clarity, when you have your plan, clarity, we're on the same page at every point. And there are no assumptions. So I tell parents, I don't all this verbal communication. You go to school, they said the teacher said, the therapist said, no, no, there's nothing like that. Documented, email. So even if you go, the teacher says something, you say, can you please send that to me as an email? Or you go back and email them, thank you for so what we discussed. Can you send it to me? So there's documentation, there's process. Because sometimes as well, you might have to change the therapist and all those things. How do you transfer? How would there be continuity? How do you know where you're coming from? So you just say, okay, I think this was what they used to. That would just be, just be all over the place. No. So one of the things that helps is to have clear documentation. So if I'm doing an IEP, if I'm doing any program, after every session, ideally they send you a report. You also as a parent, that's one of the things you can also do. You as a parent, you should have documentation. You're taking your child to a new school. You want to go and introduce your child to a school. What documentations do you have? I don't mean documentation that I gave you in the hospital. You or doctor gave you, or therapist gave you. You as a parent, create like a resume for your child, or a document of who your child is, who they are, their strengths, their challenges, the things that help them, different scenarios, those kind of things. Introduce your child to them. All right. So when we have this kind of clear documentation, can set clear goals. When the goals are set, they are documented. So set goal per year, set goal per term, set goal, even per term, per month. Then at the end of the term, we can review. So where we were, this was where we are. What are the things that, maybe um unforeseen circumstances that came up, things that prevented us. What are we going to do next? How do we move? So we are everybody's on the same page. All right, everybody will know their rules. There's open communication. All right, so not just communicating verbally, no, documented. So there's continuity, there's shared goals, so you can troubleshoot, can be flexible, and things like that. And progress, you can measure progress. And that, one thing that will also do for you, it will help you also appreciate the journey. Because sometimes some of us are so overwhelmed that, yes, your child may not be where you want them to be, but you're actually some progress. But sometimes if you don't document, and that's where journaling also comes in, okay? There's a journal that I'm creating for parents to be able to track, like a tracking journal, to be able to track their child's journey and progress, and also a vision journal. So creating a vision journal, they'll be available after the conference for people that are registered participants alone are going to I will be the only ones that will get it, and people in our community. So the vision journal for parents, a tracking journal. The tracking is not just to track. One of the things that the tracking will do for you, journal will do for you is it will help you to be grateful, so that at the end of the year, I'm also creating a gratitude journal. So at the end of the year, when you look at your tracking journal, you look at the process, you have things to be grateful for. There are things that you are so concerned with today that if you that and it looks like, oh, nothing has happened. But if you think about some things that you're concerned with, maybe a few years ago, you realize that some of your concerns, some things are not the way they used to be. Yes, there are still higher milestones that could come, but you know that there's some things that you were so worried about before that you're no longer worried about. So it will help you to be grateful. It will help you to keep hope alive. It will help you to appreciate the process. You understand? Because some of us, if you are not documenting, you're not tracking, you are not able to appreciate some changes. They may not be so big, but in that gratitude, you'll be able to even achieve more. All right. So you have something to be grateful for. Some of us at the end of the year, they say, come and do Thanksgiving. Like, what has God done? God has done anything. There's nothing to be grateful for. No, there are things to be grateful for. It's because you're not journaling, you're not tracking some of these things. So you really think nothing is happening. Well, a lot is happening while more will still happen. All right. Okay. Of course, ensure you have the right professionals. Okay. So these are some of the things you should look out for and should be a red flag. All right. Like I said, no matter how good a professional is, if they cannot partner effectively with you, if you're not being listened. I'm not saying that they have to do what you say, because remember, as a professional, I'm not just going to do what you say. Because sometimes I say, oh, this headache is what is so bothering you, but something may not bother you so much, but may be more important. So it's not about them doing what you say. So I want to balance that too, because some parents will say they're not doing what I say. They're not going to, they don't have to do what you say. Yes, it make you feel heard, validate your consent, give you a chance to speak and voice your consent, observations, but they are going to do what is in the best interest of the child per time. So, but someone who dismisses your consent, doesn't want to listen to you, won't answer your questions. Even if you don't have answer to the question, they can say, okay, maybe I don't have answers to this, or I will look it up or something, but just dismissing and trying to just do a one size fits all, those are not good things. Then when you cannot measure progress, you understand? You cannot measure progress. There's no tangible process. Those are like red flags. So like the opposite of this are what you should look for. So a professional will make you feel less important, or just talks about your child like a thing, no form of value, respect, not treating your child like a person. Those are place settings you don't want to be. Because the way I always say it is that anybody that is not partnering with you in the sense and believing for the positive, I mean realistic positive that you are laboring for, because you're not doing therapy as a waste, right? Or any form of intervention. You're doing it with the hope to achieve certain things, right? That's the essence. Not that you're just doing it. No. So anybody that is not have not believing with you like that, or what I mean not believing, I'm not saying believing and agreeing to everything you say, no, but it's not having that sense of hope that any positive thing can happen. You shouldn't be in those kind of settings because they are toxic. To me, I say they're toxic to your face. So even if someone doesn't have the answer, but they should not be contaminating and bringing negative energy. If they don't have anything good to say, it's better they keep quiet, all right? So the second one, partnership means that you are not just receiving services from a professional, you're a partner. You're a partner, you're a parenting, you're a therapy partner, like I always say. So you need to take the lead. Okay, you're actually the lead partner, you're the pilot, right? So professionals are bringing their expertise, but you are bringing the deep knowledge that will help with implementation. All right. So when you partner effectively, true transformation happen. Okay. So today we've talked about stepping into your power as a therapy partner, stepping up as a parent. All right. So we've talked about, I mean, you've seen a real life story. Mrs. Tokotops shared that story. In summary, the principle here is that as a parent, you are the pilot on this journey. You take the lead. Everyone else, yeah, partners with you, they're co-pilots, all right? So an informed and an empowered parent becomes a parenting advantage that leads to transformation in their child as they navigate developmental challenges and thrive. Okay, so both parts are essential. So you need to be informed, you need to be empowered, all right? You need to partner correctly with professionals and be able to bring this team together. So tomorrow we're going to get practical. We're going to cover strategies you can begin to implement, tools to use at home, your personal action plan. We're going to share some resources that can support you on this journey. So I hope to see everyone tomorrow. So thank you. You can connect with me again on Instagram at Autism Renewed. Our website is autismrenewed.com. So if you're in our community, I hope you're in the Telegram community because that's where we're going to be sharing a lot of resources, that wonderful resources that we have for this conference. Like I said, going to be sharing a tracker, therapy tracker, a vision journal, a gratitude journal. I mean, wonderful thing. Trust me, I've never seen anything like this. It's really going to help you on your journey, and some other resources, like a skill gap assessment guide and some other things. Lots of resources we'll be sharing. We get more information on our Telegram. If you have any question, please put your question in the comment section quickly before we go. I'll take like a little water break and I will come back to round up. Your child isn't meeting their milestones, like your child isn't talking like their peers, having behavioral challenges, not following instructions, or having learning difficulties, or maybe you are currently navigating a diagnosis such as autism, speech delay, developmental delay, or even a learning disorder. You're trying to make sense of why your child struggles to attain skills that come so easily to others. Or do you find out that your child has been in therapy for several years, yet with little progress? This has left you with more questions than answers. At Autism Renewed, we see you and we are here to help. Hello, I'm Dr. Lola Okeowo, a medical professional and a global autism expert. I am the founder of Autism Renewed, an organization that works with parents and families all across the globe, equipping them to navigate developmental challenges. All right, welcome back. Yeah, sorry. AAC. Yeah, I remember now. AAC is called Augmentative and Alternative Communication Device. Augmentative and Alternative Communication Device. Okay, let me explain. So, when children have what do you call it, speech language and particularly communication, speech and language, no, not speech. You know what we call speech delay. I was saying yesterday, what we call speech delay. It's not really speech delay. Speech delay is the speech, like tonation and all that. That's speech. Language, most children, what we call speech delay is actually a language delay, meaning that they're not able to like use their words to communicate, to interact. That's the language. So then communication is being able to express myself, and communication is beyond words, right? Can communicate with gestures, body language. So really, speech, language, communication are different. Some children have a speech delay, not a language. So speech is the tonation, tone, and all those things. Language is using the words to interact. So some children have words, but they still struggle with communication. So it's a bit different. So you see some children, they have words, they can talk, but because communication is not just talking, right? Things like there's what we call social use of language, social pragmatic. They can read cues, knowing the right words to use, knowing the right tone, the right expressions. You see, so when children have challenges with language and communication, we have different alternative methods. Okay, so these are what the concept of saying that you're building a bridge. So things like using flashcards, using like what we call PECs, picture exchange communication system. That is PECs, where you have like they look like pictures of common things. So the child can point to those things or bring them and things like that. They tend to use them, or sometimes you can get some flashcards. So they're using pictures to communicate. Also sign language, sign language to communicate, or gestures to communicate. Then the AAC is the augmentative and alternative communication. So meaning that the challenge with communication, we're creating an alternative way to communicate. So the augmentative is like you're augmenting the ability. So most of the time they come in these days, most of the time you see this tablet. It looks like a tablet, like normal tablet that children use. Okay. But these days we have some that they now come in like apps that you can download on your normal phone or tablet. You know the way we have your Duolingo language apps. But most of the time, they come with customized tablets. So what it is like, imagine the pictures that I was talking about, the flashcards and pictures of common things. Now picture them that they are now on a tablet, but they now attach like sound to it. So meaning instead of just showing a flashcard of bottle, water, shoe, or somebody using the toilet, indicating that, so a child bringing the flashcard or somebody using the toilet means that the child is trying to say, I want to use the toilet, right? Or I want to eat, can bring a picture of a plate or a picture of somebody eating. So the AAC now, all those pictures are embedded inside. Maybe I'll send a picture on the Telegram group if you are there. So drop a message on the group. I can drop a picture there. So all the pictures are embedded inside that tablet. So what happens that we have different companies that do it. So most companies, they will have a customized tablet where they've embedded those pictures there. So when the child clicks on that thing, it will you will hear the word. So they can use it for one word, or even sentences. I want to. So if you open the tablet, that AAC child can click, with time. So it takes training. You train the child to be able to use it. So the child uses it to communicate. So it's an augmentative and alternative communication device. So, but like I said, most of them come in these customized tablets. So usually, in most countries that have it, through the usually we go through maybe the speech and language pathologists to get it. So they would apply for it. Most countries that do it, I said, they go through them. Then there are different stages because there are also different types, and so the process is just like the process of getting any form of insurance or any form of intervention. So they do like an assessment. There are different types, there are different levels. Sometimes they have different. They'll try one or two, find the one suitable, then they begin to train the child on how to use it to communicate. But what it is an augmentative and alternative communication. Also, people that have other, like I said, I've not said not only for children that are diagnosed with autism that don't have language, people that have other conditions as well. Some people that have maybe they had a tracheostomy. So I'm sure you've seen some people that they can't really talk because they have something on their neck. So some people have had surgery, maybe they had their vocal cords, they had issue, maybe they had cancer or something with their vocal cords and they cannot speak. Or some people even come with let's say what do you call it? They are born with some of those deficiencies or deformities or problem with their muscles of whatever, oral motor, they can't talk. So it is a way to communicate, in short. So it's not only for children diagnosed with autism or speech delay or speech and language issues. No, it is a communication device. So you see people who also they've done tracheostomy due to maybe surgery, accident, cancer, some other things, and they cannot talk. That means they can't speak. So for those kind of people too, they use AAC. So you see it as a tablet most times. It's like a normal big tablet. You see the pictures there, but it's not just pointing. So when you press the dress, but they will train them. They can use to form sentences and use to communicate and all that and all. So they carry the tablet everywhere. But these days, I've seen ones that now come in like downloadable apps. So meaning that the families can download it on any device. It will still come in that way. Of course, when they download it and it opens up the page, it will be in those forms. So I hope I've been able to explain. So it's called augmentative and alternative communication device. That's what it is, AAC. So yeah. So most of the time, you see sometimes speech pathologists can recommend it. I'm not really against it. The only issue I have is that sometimes and that's where the parent comes in. If as a parent you don't step in, sometimes when some children get on the point of using the AAC, you can get to a point where you're so fixated on just using the AAC to communicate. When the child, it's a different thing for the people that I said that they maybe their oral motor their muscles for speaking, they have issues with it. That means they cannot really speak. But some people that even have limited language encourage AAC because when someone is able to communicate, behavior lessons, and you can use it as a tool to build communication and language. But what I find that sometimes if you're not careful, it can become so easy for you as a parent or even a professional to just stay on the device, and as long as you just press easier, because trying to teach a child and train the child who has words to begin to build more on their words and to use their words to communicate is actually more difficult than just focus on just pressing the tablet. So that's why I tell parents that in doing it, you have to be intentional. And that's where you come in. Ensure that you are using it as a tool. If the child already has language or has the ability, so don't stop trying to develop the ability or build on the ability to use their words or language to communicate and go for the easy route of the device. So use the device as a tool, complementing, not just a replacement, as long as the child has the ability to. Right? So I cannot see any question in the comment section. If you're in a Telegram group, you can drop your questions if you have questions there, and or you can send me a message. You can also follow us on all our social media handles. Follow us on Instagram at Autism Renewed, Autism on Facebook. Our website is autismrenewed.com. You can drop us message on Instagram, can DM on Instagram, and we'll respond to you. Thank you everyone for joining today. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. So tomorrow will be day 3. And I hope to see you then. Okay. Thank you everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Bye. Child isn't meeting their milestones. Like your child isn't talking like their peers, having behavioral challenges, not following instructions, or having learning difficulties. Or maybe you are currently navigating a diagnosis such as autism, speech delay, developmental delay, or even a learning disorder. You're trying to make sense of why your child struggles to attain skills that come so easily to others. Or do you find out that your child has been in therapy for several years, yet with little progress? This has left you with more questions than answers. At Autism Renewed, we see you and we are here to help. Hello, I'm Dr. Lola Okeowo, a medical professional and a global autism expert. I am the founder of Autism Renewed, an organization that works with parents and families all across the globe, equipping them to navigate developmental challenges. Peers, having behavioral challenges, not following instructions, or having learning difficulties. Or maybe you are currently navigating a diagnosis such as autism, speech delay, developmental delay, or even a learning disorder. You're trying to make sense of why your child struggles to attain skills that come so easily to others? Or do you find out that your child has been in therapy for several years, yet with little progress? This has left you with more questions than answers. At Autism Renewed, we see you and we are here to help. Hello, I'm Dr. Lola Okewu, a medical professional and a global autism expert. I am the founder of Autism Renewed, an organization that works with parents and families all across the globe, equipping them to navigate developmental challenges. We do this with clarity, with compassion, and expert support. Our approach integrates medical insights, educational planning, and therapeutic strategies because we believe that every child deserves a chance to catch up and thrive. We have several books and resources, and in addition, we offer different services. Some of our services include our one-on-one consultation, where we help you truly understand what's going on with your child and what to do next. We also have the Milestones Acceleration Program, which is our customized parent coaching program, where we help you to build customized strategies that are suitable for your child. In addition, we have targeted programs that address different areas of concerns, like our speech delay programs, our behavioral challenges programs, and we also have programs that target learning difficulties. We also work closely with schools and educators, helping them to create inclusive environments, effective individualized educational plans, also known as IEPs, and strong partnerships with parents and families for every child's success. We have worked with different families across several nations of the world, helping them to turn confusion into clarity and challenges into breakthrough moments. So, whether you're just starting the journey of helping your child to navigate developmental challenges, or you have been walking this road for several years, I want you to know this: you are not alone. There is help, there is hope, and Autism Renewed is here to equip you with the right tools, support, and strategies to help your child to grow, connect, and thrive.